Remote Evil. Book 1. Chapter 20. The Savior. This audiovisual book was created by Joseph Russell Tim Pugh Geisen. He is watching Cherry using his satellite internet setup. The kind of satellite internet setup used by criminals who have hideouts in remote areas not serviced by normal commercial internet companies. Just like the criminals he hired a discreet drug addict recommended by one of his drug dealer contacts to be his satellite internet account dummy. The drug addict used his personal information and identification to apply for the satellite internet account and deposited a big advance on his account, which equals 1 subscription year. The satellite internet connection salesman was all too willing to approve the application and take the money of the drug addict with no questions asked. The satellite internet industry is so cutthroat that for the veteran satellite internet salesman it's more important to get the account first and worry about problems later. Of course, the drug addict will later have an alibi that he was robbed and his account hacked by criminals he will conveniently not be able to identify. All this elaborate planning ensures that the satellite internet used to monitor Cherry remotely will not be used to trace her rapist. The rapist of Cherry not only used his drug pusher contact to find him dummies, but he also bought from him the drugs he used to make Cherry unconscious. The self-driving van used to kidnap Cherry was designed and created by her rapist using the stolen car parts and workshop of an illegal car chop shop, which is also known by the drug pusher. In exchange for the help of all these criminals to the rapist of Cherry, he will create self-driving illegal drug delivery vehicles for them to use when they smuggle their drugs. The rapist of Cherry used his old contacts and found his new contacts from the dark web together with the other suppliers of all of his illegal equipment and vehicles. They used a sophisticated code composed of text, images, icons, emoticons, and other visual designs found on the internet. Their messages would sometimes be composed of entire web pages. Instead of using an algorithm to enable their message to be decoded, they used logic to understand the messages being communicated to them. The rapist of Cherry and his accomplices know how each other thinks. That is why they are able to communicate through sheer logic alone. They were criminals, but they were well-read and educated criminals who think crime is just another system to learn and master. Besides the self-driving van that he used to first kidnap Cherry then later burned intentionally, the rapist of Cherry also has another modified vehicle, which is a camper van. This is the vehicle that is now serving as a prison for Cherry. It is located in a remote forest and is hidden by a camouflage netting. The kind used by the military and outdoor sportsmen to hide their location from their enemies and prey. The inside of this camper van has been turned into a prison to keep Cherry securely locked away inside, while the outside still mostly resembles a normal camper van to hide its sinister purpose. This is the kind of camper van that would not be out of place when seen in a jungle. The camper van is in a grassy part of the forest. It would have been very hard for the rapist to find this near-perfect spot to drive and hide his camper van had he not studied Google Maps for several months before. His camper van location has already been mapped by Google Maps, but it does not show in the street view of Google Maps. Satellites and airplanes who fly above the forest may be able to track and take pictures of his camper van location and the camper van itself, but the satellites and airplanes would not get clear pictures that show the camper van because the camper van is, as mentioned before, camouflaged to blend in with the forest. The camper van where Cherry is held prisoner is very hard to locate electronically as well. The material the camper van is made of and the way it has been designed ensures that electronic tracking devices like metal detectors will not be able to track it. Her rapist had planned this near perfectly. He was educated by illegal drug producers who have long experiences and wide knowledge in hiding their drug processing facilities and marijuana plantations from the law. Only by seeing the camper van at a short distance will one be only able to see the camper van underneath all the camouflage that hides it beyond the vision of anyone. But one would really need to concentrate to see the camper van even if it is almost right in front of their eyes. One unconventional way to find the camper van would be to accidentally stumble upon it. This is how John Ranger found the camper van. John Ranger is a retired soldier and an avid nature lover who studies and catalogs insects. He has been doing this since his wife died several years ago. He would spend weeks alone by himself in many different forests studying the many forms of the insects of which he is fond of. He is like one of the characters in the television series Mountain Men. He has a lot of grey facial hair and wears a cowboy hat. In fact, he likes watching the Mountain Men television series and dreams that someday he could live like one of the men in the said television series. He likes going to the out-of-the-way places of forests not usually reached by people and surprising himself with the new discoveries he finds in them. It is not uncommon for him to sometimes get lost. Today is one of these days. He has already been lost in the forest for a few hours when he found the almost erased wheel tracks of a vehicle in his path. His training as a soldier has trained him that these wheel tracks have been intentionally erased to hide their origin or destination. His curiosity overcame his fear. He readied his gun and followed the remaining wheel tracks, hoping it will lead him to people who may or may not be friendly. He hopes they are just hunters who want their secret hunting grounds to remain a secret from other hunters who may track them because of their vehicle. He soon arrives near where the camper van is hidden. The camouflage of the camper van did not fool the veteran soldier and tracker in him. He carefully removed the obstacles between him and the outer perimeter of the camper van. He then looked out for any possible booby traps which may be hidden in the area while he proceeded forward and into the camper van. Luckily, he was able to reach the camper van without encountering any booby traps. There is a big sign in the camper van which read, "United States Government Bird Watching Project. Please keep out. This is United States government property." John is suspicious of the sign and thinks it is fake and meant to deceive anyone who might find the camper van. Being a nature lover, John has a good knowledge of the government programs involving nature. This is not one of them. Even the way the sign has been designed, including all the markings in it, are suspicious to him. He carefully checked the camper van from all sides. All its windows have been welded solid. John tries to know if there is anyone inside the van. "Hello? Is anybody there?" He called in a raised voice to anyone inside. No one answered. He repeatedly called to anyone who might be inside the van while circling it. No one still answered his calls. He then knocked on the door of the camper van, then banged it with his hands when no one still answered back. He then tried next to open the door of the camper van, which has many locks. It did not even move a bit but stayed completely shut solid. He saw a small ladder attached to the camper van. He quickly used the ladder to get to the top of the camper van. The top of the camper van was full of solar panels and satellite equipment. There was a small door on the roof which was also locked. John noticed that the satellite equipment was turned on after seeing some LED lights on it blinking intermittently, which means it was sending and receiving signals. He is now convinced that the camper van is being used as a base and someone may be operating it from the inside for some kind of purpose, and that it is not an empty vehicle. He went down the roof of the camper van and again circled it, trying to find any openings. He still sees no openings. He crawls to the bottom of the camper van out of curiosity. He still sees no openings. Frustrated, he turns his attention around the grassy spot where the camper van is located. Not far away from the camper van and almost hidden in view, he saw the nearly full pit of garbage. Next to it is the pit of human waste, which nearly caused him to vomit. He checks the garbage. Most of the garbage was old, but there were new ones as well. He reckons that there have been fresh garbage added just several days ago. He checks the human wastes. Most of the human waste was old and has turned nearly solid, but there were still a few relatively fresh ones. From this, John knew that people usually lived in the camper van. He cannot decide if he will wait for someone to appear or just try to open the door of the camper van by shooting it with his gun. Then John saw something in the garbage which widened his eyes. It was a burnt watch. It was a watch made for a woman. John quickly investigated the remains of the ashes in the garbage. He saw pieces of jewelry which also belongs to a woman. John cannot make up his mind. He thinks there is a crime somewhere where a woman is the victim. He decided he will force open the camper van even if he has to use his knife and gun to open it. He circled the camper van again one more time and tried to see if he can open any of the welded shut windows. Then he saw the small air vent located near the top of the camper van. He then had an idea. He made a makeshift ladder using branches he found in the forest and from those he cut from trees and used it to reach the air vent. The fans were moving. This further convinces him that someone is inside the camper van. He decided again to see if there was anyone inside the van. "Hello? Is anyone there?" He shouted directly in front of the mouth of the air vent. No one answered back from inside the camper van. He gave it one more shot and repeated his call again. Then to his surprise he heard a voice. It was the voice of Cherry. "Hello? Is there anyone outside?" she asked, shouting. "Yes. Yes. I'm here," shouted John. "Please help me. I'm being held inside a cage here. Please help me," Cherry replied, shouting and crying. "I'm gonna get you out of there, miss. Stand by," he shouted in reply to her. John quickly went down his makeshift ladder and went in front of the camper van door. He shot all the locks of the door with his gun. He slowly and carefully opened the door of the camper van. John immediately saw the naked Cherry locked inside the fence wire-walled cage. She cried with joy when she saw John. John was horrified at the sorry state of Cherry. She was now a very dirty and very thin woman. She looked so pitiful that John nearly shed a tear, although he is used to seeing horrible human conditions as a veteran soldier. "Oh my God! I'm gonna get you out of there, miss. Don't you worry now," he assured to Cherry. "Thank you. Thank you." This is all she can think of saying as thoughts of freedom raced through her mind. Her savior has arrived. Her mind told her. End of chapter.